In today's lesson, we'll be creating a custom 3D print. So we have Onshape opened up. We're going to start by creating a three-dimensional model. Start a document, and we're going to give it a name. And create. For this 3D print, I chose to do the Greater Essex County District School Board logo. So we're going to start by finding that image. So I went over to Google, and I've chosen what I want to make into a three-dimensional print. So I'm going to go with this logo here. I'm going to right-click, save image as, and you can see I've already saved it to my downloads, somewhere easy to find, and I've given it a name. So going back to our Onshape, we're going to draw in the top plane for this exercise. So if you go to the View cube in the top right-hand corner, you can choose the top of the block, and that will rotate the view to just the top plane. So first thing we want to do is create a sketch on the top. So we're going to go over to the left-hand side on our toolbar and hit Sketch. Now, first thing it asks you is select the sketch plane. So we are already in the top view. We're going to select the top plane. Now, our toolbar at the top has changed. We're going to find the Insert Image tool. So if you hit this drop-down menu, it may be on Insert DXF. So we're going to go down to Insert Image. And these are the files we have available. You can see there are none. So we need to find that logo that we just downloaded from the web. So import, and we're going to find our file in our downloads or wherever you have saved it. Open up the file. And now it gives us the option, select an imported image. So we're going to select the image, draw image, rectangle. So in this case, we're going to choose any open space. We're going to avoid the center for right now. So just any rectangle, doesn't matter the size at this step. So as soon as I draw that rectangle, it will automatically propagate that image. And if I left click with the mouse, I can move it to any location. So for this exercise, we're going to try to get this right in the center of our top plane. So there's a couple things we want to do. We're going to add some points on the top and bottom of this image. So we're going to select the point tool. On the left-hand side, we're going to slowly scroll down, and you'll see this orange box appear. That indicates that we're in the center of the axis. So we're going to select here, and we're going to go to the top, slowly coming across, and there's our orange box. So I can scroll in with the mouse if I need it, and select the point. So now that we have these 2 points selected, we can either hit Escape to get out of our tool, or just click again on the point tool. So now what we want to do is line these 2 points with our center origin. So we're going to go down to our list of tools. They may be in a drop-down menu depending on your screen size. If it's a little bit smaller screen, they may be in a drop-down menu like mine is. So I'm going to hit the drop-down, and we're going to look for two tools here, horizontal and vertical. We're going to start with the first horizontal constraint, which is going to lock this side dot or point with the center dot. So we're going to select the horizontal tool and just select both of these points. And you can see that this point is now locked to the center origin. We're next going to switch to the vertical constraint, and we're going to select the top point and the center point. And you can see now it's shifted over to the center. Now, since I am actually going to be 3D printing this, I need to give it some dimensions. So I'm going to decide that we are going to make this about, say, 2.5 inches square. So next thing I want to do is select the dimensioning tool. So I can either hit D on the keyboard or come up to the toolbar and select the dimensioning tool. Once I have it selected, I'm going to select the bottom, and we're going to scroll out and click anywhere, and we're going to add a dimension of 2.5. So there we go. You can see now all the lines around the perimeter have turned to a black color. That tells me that nothing can be misconstrued. We have dimensions and we have the origin where the piece needs to start. So there's no way that this information could be misled. Now that we have finished all the constraints of the drawing, we can now finish the sketch. So we're going to go up to the check mark, and we can see we have this faded image in the background. So the next thing we want to do is create a three-dimensional object on top of this. We're going to trace this perimeter to make our three-dimensional object. So I'm going to create another sketch. Again, select the top plane, and we're going to start by creating a center point circle. So center point, click it in the center, and I'm going to move it out to the approximate size that I want. So we're going to go with that full 2.5. So it doesn't matter at this point, just roughly grab it. Again, dimension that line. We're going to go back to our 2.5. So now the image is perfectly aligned with our circle. That is going to be our first base layer of this 3D print. So we're going to hit the check mark, and the next thing we want to do is extrude. So we're going to extrude, which is making something three-dimensional, and it first gives us a red line here and says faces and sketches regions to extrude. So we're going to select that circle, and you can see that it's trying to make a three-dimensional object. We're going to make this keychain or 3D print. The base is going to be 1/4 inch, and once we hit enter, it will size itself down. So I'm grabbing with the right mouse button, and I can rotate my image around. So I'm happy with that. Now we can close the image, close the sketch. Now we need to go around and trace all the perimeter of this workpiece. So we're going to start again by creating another sketch on the top plane. In this case, we're going to select inside the boundaries of the circle because we want to be sketching on the top of this 3D object. So now we're going to find the spline tool. The spline tool will allow us to carefully trace around the perimeter of this object. So I'm going to start by picking a point. I'm going to start up in this hand, and on a straight object you can just go in a straight line, and the more points you put, the more curve there will be to the object. So you can see the points are starting to move the farther you go down. Once you've completed a section, once in a while I'd recommend hitting the escape key, and you'll see if you've made any mistakes or need to backtrack and correct some parts. So we're going to continue on. Okay, I believe that's everything for here. So we're going to close the sketch, and you'll see that we have this nice perimeter. The fact that we see this solid yellow line all the way around tells me that I didn't miss anything. There's no gaps in the chain, and you can see the stars like that as well. So what we need to do now is turn these two objects into a three-dimensional piece. So I'm going to select the inside of both these shapes and we're going to extrude. So if we extrude it 1 inch, that's what it would look like. That's obviously going to be a little bit too large. So let's make it another, maybe an 1/8 of an inch. So it's kind of difficult to see. I can go back to my sketch 1, which is our image, and I'm just going to hide that so you can kind of see a little bit more what's going on. So there we have it. There's our logo inside of our 3D object. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. So now we have a 1/4 inch raised logo and a 1/4 inch base. So we're going to close that. If I right click, I can go back to my isometric view and you can see what we have. There we have it. Once you've completed your 3D print, we are going to finish up with Onshape by exporting this document. We're going to do this in an STL format, which is going to allow us to send it right to the 3D printer. So I'm going to give this the name. Okay, and just making sure that we are in STL and binary STL format, and export. So the option, it's going to go to your downloads. Okay, here we are in Cura, our 3D printing slicing software. So what this does is break down the 3D model into different layers and converts that into G code that the 3D printer can understand. So we are going to open up our folder, find in our downloads, we should find that STL file. So it automatically gets pulled into the printer. This is printing on my Ender 3 Pro at home. So it's a little bit different from the Affinia printers we use in our school board, but there we have it. There's our logo in all its glory. So there's the name in this drop-down menu. We're not going to change too much of the settings. We've already been over 3D printing. I'm not going to dive into that. So we're going to slice our file. It's going to be 2 hours. I'm going to send it over to the USB. Once it's on the USB, I will transfer it over to the 3D print, start the 3D printer, and in about approximately 2 hours, I will have a finished logo. So altogether, 2 hours and 20 minutes. Start to finish, we have a work piece. Thank you for watching.